Hello. I wanted to communicate a message based on the most recent changes in frequencies that are happening around our planet and our being. That has to do with a declaration of sovereignty of self, and in the way exercising personal sovereignty and discernment into your way of being, into your way of living. And so the 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 current change that is taking place is, um, as individuals gain their own perspective and gain their own sovereignty of self, they're able to move through energies, and uh, interpret and look into energies that would allow them a different perspective, a different view of life, a different view of reality than you or they had prior to the most recent set of changes. And so, within that process of transition, within that process of being, the the guidance is to allow yourself to open to the frequencies that are coming in and taking place, or taking the change within the collective, but then also within the individualized version of you as a sovereign being. And so the importance and the ask is for you to center in, step back, and start discerning for your own individual self, the self of I am, the right path, the right way of living, the right way of walking, the right way of speaking, and that have potentially not been your choice in this declaration or this identification of sovereignty. And so when in the past you were able to function and walk this plane as a being of a collective, as a being of a collective living or collective knowing, and you were comfortable and were allowed to, and in fact guided to have your path and your way, a lifestyle, a way of being, to be co-aligned and coincide with a greater whole. um, Now, through this change, that path will no longer be available to you. So the greater whole has now shifted or transformed on a dimensional level into something else. And that something else is your own recognition of your conscious self, your conscious um, equity of being as a human being that represents the collective whole, but is not part of the collective whole. And so the difference there is your declaration of the sovereign state of living carries with it representation of the whole on an individualized basis, as opposed to a representation of collective, and then your individualized basis. So the collective form of functioning, the collective form of being is dissipating, is disappearing, and it is returning itself to the normalcy of life, of selection, of living, that is in fact your true representation into form. And so through that, through the essence, your collective knowledge, your collective thought processes, your collective adaptations of lifestyles would no longer fit and no longer work if they are indeed um, continuing to function as part of the collective, right? And so, what you would draw out of it, you would need to step back or step away from the collective thought processes, collective ways of being that no longer resonate with your individual sovereign self, and then start to discern, start to truly um, take inventory of everything that does or does not belong into your being. Not from the observation of a dualistic standpoint, but simply discern the frequency, discern the way of living, the way of walking, the resonance in which you now do belong with, you now do fit in with, um, on your own basis by basis level of living. So not belong in because you belong into that collective, not fit in walking because you're walking along with the others. Where do you fit to walk in on your own? Where do you fit to walk in as your own individual collective being that represents the unity, but is not part of the what would be referred to uh, past representation of the three-dimensional collective that we have known before, or we have adapted ourselves into living before. So, a very important but very large nuance is actions could be the same. The outcomes could even be the same, but the discernment lies in an adaptation of you and your own personal choice of those actions and those outcomes. As opposed to in the past, following kind of the herd, that herd mentality where we move together, um, trying to connect with the energy of the collective, but then and then try to individualize yourself within it. And now being an individual and then driving the unity consciousness through you. And then, each individual within the past parameters of collective can and will be able to do that on their own, but from the standpoint of individualized I. And so I hope that is helpful. I hope from that you can receive guidance, so you can receive a way to walk this plane under the new instruction or under the new way of living. And then also, at the same time, this would communicate to you why some of the old paradigms and some of the old ways of your adaptation into this life no longer fit and no longer work, is because we are no longer functioning as a collective herd. We are now functioning as an individual beings of self. And so sovereignty, discretion, um, discernment of self, and then discernment for the energies that you're resonating with, uh, willing to resonate with, and actually wanting to resonate with. And so, very, very strong discernment um, into your own desires and into your own actions, and everything that they carry with them is the way forward. Thank you for listening, and happy living.